I'm not a big pickle guy. You know, let me start that over. I'm not a pickle fan. Not a huge pickle fan. I don't know how to say that without innuendo, so I'm just gonna leave it alone. I really don't like store-bought pickles. For all my life, I've really sort of shied away from this. I know there's a ton of people out there who absolutely love pickles, store-bought pickles, Vlasics, the classic Spears, the whole pickle that's in the jar. I can't stand, that's just not to my palate, any kind of sweet pickles. And dill pickles, very often when I buy them in the store, they just don't have a flavor that captures me. They feel really one note. They feel really, they're sharp, but also in some ways bland. And so I never really gravitate toward them. This year, for my garden that's out in the yard, we had left on a trip and came back and had an absolute bumper crop of cucumbers. Well, we had to figure out something to do with them. And so I decided to look and to see what the best way to save them would be. And I came across pickling. I'm not going to make a video today about canning and what goes into canning and all of the ins and outs, because it is a very deep, in-depth topic. And there's FDA rules and bloggers saying you can ignore those and just an absolute mountain of research that needs to get done. So what I'm going to show you today is what I decided to do last summer. I decided to use my sous vide to pickle. And the results turned out amazing. They didn't cook at the level that most things can at, so they retained their crunch, had a ton of flavor, and I was able to eat them and use them within a couple of weeks, and so they didn't have to be shelf safe. I stored them in my refrigerator. So I'm going to show you what I did this summer, and hopefully you can use it. If you come across a sale on cucumbers at the store, you can then use this to maybe save some fresh homemade pickles and see if you like these a little better. I think you will.
So the pickles I'm going to make need to be refrigerated, and if you make them and keep them in the fridge, they can last for about 2.5 months. Start by washing the ingredients. First, I rinse off my dill and then I dry it. I'm using smaller Persian cucumbers because I can fit them whole in the jar. I rinse them and I add them to a big bowl filled with water and add some vinegar to wash off anything that I missed. Next, I make my brine, which is 1 cup of vinegar to 1 cup of water to 1 tablespoon of pickling salt. You could just use kosher salt, but the crystal of this salt is smaller, so you'll need more kosher salt than canning salt. Also, pickling salt is a little more clear in the brine, so that's why I use it. I'm also using purified water. I would use distilled or purified water for this, not just straight tap water. Normally, I do this by 4-cup measurements, so 4 cups to 4 cups to a 1/4 cup of salt. I give this a whisk and I set it aside. Now I'm going to prep my garlic. I just set it on the cutting board and lightly crush it, and the paper comes right off when I use these gloves. I'm going to put something like 2 to 3 cloves per jar. Next, I take the jars out of the dishwasher that just came out unsanitized, and I set them on the counter. I'm going to add the whole spices to the jar here, 1 teaspoon at a time. I add coriander. Then I add whole black peppercorn. Next, I add whole mustard seed. If you want a little spicy kick, you can add some crushed red pepper to the jar. Next, I add some whole dill to the jars. I just leave the stem and the fronds on. I normally do 1 or 2 sprigs. It just depends on how many fronds the dill has. Then I add the garlic here. Now I'm just going to start adding cucumbers. Now you want these to come up to the shoulder of the jar. That's where the jar starts to taper at the top. Don't go all the way up to the top because the brine will not cover it. I took a few of these and cut them to show you what that might look like if you're using larger cucumbers. Now you add the brine to cover the cucumbers. Add your lid and tighten the ring tight, but don't over tighten it. One quick little turn after it has seated is perfectly fine. So I put these in my sous vide bain marie and I just let them cook at 140 for 3 hours. After they're done, I take them out and let them cool on the countertop for about an hour before putting them in the fridge. Now the button is down on these. The top will pop and go down. But even if that doesn't happen, they're still sealed, and they'll last for 10 weeks in the fridge, no problem. The brine is very acidic, and if you kept the process clean all the way through, there's not much that can grow in here. What I love about the sous vide pickle is that the spices and the herbs get a chance to steep in this pickling liquid. This is something you don't get if you were just to put this stuff in a jar and not add heat to it and throw it in your fridge. Sure, you would get probably a lot more crunch from your pickle, but you would almost certainly lose that really intense flavor and that mixed flavor of that pickling liquid and all those spices and herbs infusing with the cucumber.
All right, moment of truth. These have been sitting in my fridge for 24 hours. Now I'm going to show you that they are sealed. So it did take a second to come off. We have a nice pickle in here. I'm going to grab one from below, pull it out so we can look at it and crunch into it and see what we think. So it's not floppy. Here we go. That has all the great flavors of pickle. Snappy, really sour vinegar flavor, nice mellow dill flavor, all those different spices. It's a little hot. It's got the wonderful mustard notes in there. Lots of garlic in there. It's got a lot of really robust garlic flavor. And like I said, crunchy, it snaps, and it tastes delicious. Like, this is why the sous vide pickle that stays in your fridge, in my opinion, is superior to the store-bought one. I do think that the store-bought one may crunch as much or a little more. You're trading that beautiful fresh flavor away for what they put in it. It's got a gorgeous fresh flavor to it that I just don't feel like I get recreated when I buy a jar of pickles at the store. This feels like a garden fresh pickle, even though I bought this cucumber at the store. It's got everything I want on it. And this would be amazing in a burger. It'd be amazing in sauces. This, in my opinion, is a superior way for you, if you have time and you have a sous vide, to make pickles at home. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you give this a try. Please leave me a comment below to let me know if you like this video. And do an up thumb and a share. That stuff really helps the channel grow, and I'm looking to grow the channel, so any help you can give me, that would be amazing. All right, that's going to be it for this week. Thanks so much for joining me. Catch you next time. Until then, season liberally.